Hi everybody, welcome to a top 12 spray gun video. Now those of you who are observant would realise that if you look at the cover shot for this on YouTube, there's actually 15 guns, not 12. And the reason I did that is because there's 3 that ideally would go in there, but obviously I can't fit them in there because there's already 12 in there. So they're also RANs, I should mention, is the idea of it. So before we get on to the real video, just a quick run through of what I've left out and why I've left it out. The ANI F160, incidentally the cap is interchangeable with the ANI Scull, which is actually in the top 12, just for your information really. They are different. It's a brass head on the F160 and it's anodized aluminium head on the Scull. Basically, I think probably to keep weight down, but yeah, otherwise they're actually interchangeable. So the F160 is a really good gun, very good value for money, but it's not quite up to being in the top 12, but worthy of a worthy mention, I think. The other one is the DV1. This is the clear version, which is obviously what this video is about. Very good for clear coat. I don't think personally it's any better than the GTI Prolite. It is better made than the GTI Prolite, but it's also much more expensive. And I didn't think that it was worthy to put both of these in the top 12 because there's so many other guns literally gnashing at these guns, you know, for a place, that I didn't think it was worthy of it. But worthy of an honourable mention, which is why it's here. But yeah, a good gun. For some reason this seems to create a lot of overspray and I'm not sure why. Not this one, just in general these things do, and I don't know why. And the other one is the Kiwami4 or the W400. Frankly, when you get to the sort of quality that the top 12 are, this doesn't quite make it. It just doesn't quite cut it. Performance wise, I would probably give it about 38 out of 40, which is still good. It would get excellent value for money, etc., but they don't make it anymore. That's the reason for leaving it out, or the main reason for leaving it out. But as I say, I think it would probably struggle to get in the top 12 anyway. Same goes for the W400, but even worse so, in that the W400 performs as good as this, or the same as this, but it's actually more expensive. So there's no reason why you would put the W400 in there and not this. The reason they stopped making this, I'm sure, is because of the W400. I'm sure that a lot of the importers in various countries complained that this thing was as good but cheaper and better technically because it's a bit lighter, feels better in the hand, etc. So that's the 3 honourable mentions, and that's the reason why they're not in the top 12 video. So now we go on to the top 12 video. I hope you enjoy it. I will just say at the start, I buy all my own guns, so nobody's giving me any money to put one in front of another or whatever. Maybe I'm flattering myself, maybe it wouldn't make much difference anyway. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Put a comment in. I'm normally quite talkative. I expect quite a few comments on this one, and it is coming up to a festive time of the year when it goes out. So give me a little bit of time to react because I might need it. All right guys, thanks as always for watching, and if you are enjoying the videos, maybe thinking about giving us a little thumbs up and a subscription or something. Cheers guys. So in 12th place we have the GTI Prolite, or Prolite as it's now called, also called the Tekna GTI Prolite in the US. So some will be surprised that this gun is actually at number 12 because it is a very good gun, but every single gun, as I've said before in this video, are very good guns. It just wouldn't get in here if it wasn't very good, but it is starting to show its age a little bit. I've given it 40 out of 50 for performance. It performs very well. I've given it 10 out of 10 for versatility because there's a whole range of caps that are available. There's actually 5 different caps. It depends what jurisdiction you're in, but there's actually 5 different caps available for it. So there's plenty of different stuff that you can do with this gun. And yeah, I mean, it is very versatile. Build quality, I've given it 17 out of 20. All the guns in this video are built well, but some are obviously built better than others. The GTI Prolite is let down a little bit by its sealing system. Now, some of the guns in this video will also have a similar sealing system, but it's not as fragile as the GTI Prolite or the Prolite version, because the actual edges where the seal the seal actually seals is quite thin, so it's quite easy for those to start to deform slightly, and then you start to get little air leaks, you know, bubbling in the pot and a bit of fluttering on the tip. So it's not particularly badly built, but it's not as good as some. It's just not going to be as reliable, although the actual spare part in that case isn't particularly expensive. Value for money, I've given it 17, and the reason for that is that I mean, it's not cheap, it's not a cheap gun by any means, but compared to some of the guns in this video, it's not expensive either. But, you know, there's other guns that are cheaper than this that actually are better, that, you know, you'll see later on in the video. But, yeah, it certainly deserves a place in there. As I said at the start, it was a toss-up between this and the DV1. I use the TE10 cap, I use the TE20, I've got all 5 caps these days, and you know, you can use it for base coat, you can use it for clear coat. This video is about clear coat, so I would use, as I'm using in this video here, a TE10, which is quite a slow cap, but it gives you a really good finish. You can get a T110 that's very good for a flat finish on clear coat. The TE20 is the one that's normally used by most people because it's good at producing a factory orange peel, and it's quite a bit faster, makes the gun quite a bit faster. A whole host of tips you can buy for it in different sizes, from 1.1 up to, well, technically you can get them up to 2, but yeah, most people use a 1.2, 1.3 or 1.4. Although I did do a video recently comparing the DV1 in 1.1 to this in 1.1, and it actually came out very, very well. Obviously it slows the gun down and you have to be careful what viscosity material you're putting through it, but it does actually give a really, really good finish. So a very good all-round gun, a little bit expensive these days and definitely starting to show its age, but as you can see, it's capable of very, very good results. And I think it was more worthy putting this one in there than the DV1, because the DV1 for me, the price shot up compared to the GTI Prolite, and I don't think it offers that much more than the GTI Prolite, if anything. And I was only going to put one in this top 12, and there's so much competition that could actually go in there. So this is the one that made it. Anyway, now we have to move on to number 11. So in 11th place, we have the Devilbiss Neptune. Now this is a Japanese Devilbiss, in that it is actually made in Japan, not in the UK like most Devilbiss guns are. Now, one of the things you'll notice about this is the build quality is definitely a step up from the UK Devilbiss guns. The DV1 is actually quite a well-made Devilbiss gun. I mean, most of them are reasonably well made, but this is definitely a step up. The sealing mechanism for the tip is actually better in that there's no gaskets as such to worry about. As you see when we're assembling it here, there's no gaskets to worry about. It's just a good engineering fit, which means you get a longer life with fewer problems. One of the problems with the Devilbiss Prolite is that you do get air leaks around the front because of that gasket, that small flimsy gasket you get. And people have to change them quite often. It's not particularly expensive, but it can be quite annoying, whereas something like this completely avoids that. This ships with the 110B. Now, it's not exactly the same as the T110 cap that you get with the Devilbiss Prolite, but it is similar. It's, as far as I know, it's the only cap you can actually get with this gun. I've used it for base coat and I've used it for clear coat, and it does admirably well. It does really, really well. I suppose if I had to look at a shortfall, it would be the fact that it does only come with that cap. In that I haven't seen any other different caps that actually are for it. So it can be quite limiting. If that cap's not quite what you want or what you like, then it can be quite limiting. As far as the scores, I gave it 85 in total, which was worked out performance 40 out of 50, a good 8 out of 10. It's a very good performer. All the guns in this video, as I will say again, are good quality guns. You know, nothing's found lacking here. It just lacks some of the bite or some of the shine that some guns further up the field have. So yeah, a 40 out of 50 is I think a reasonable score for this gun. Value for money, I've given it 18 out of 20. They aren't cheap, but they're not particularly expensive. I did have a quick look before I did this video. They're about 350 GB pounds, maybe slightly under that. So you're looking at what, around about 450 US dollars. None of the guns in this top 12 are cheap, but it's not up there with some of the really expensive guns. So yeah, 18 out of 20 value for money. Build quality, I've gone for 19 out of 20. As I said at the start, it's really well made. It's very good if you're after a lightweight spray gun that's very well made and flickable. You can move it around a lot. So if you've got a lot of painting to do that are, you know, you need to move around quite a lot, and people that do certain things, not necessarily automotive stuff, but want something that you can move around a lot, that lightweight really does help. And that good build quality does actually reward you in excellent reliability. I've only had mine about 2.5 years, I think. I haven't used it loads, but obviously, as you would expect, I've had no problems with it. But just looking at the fit and finish of it, it's going to last you years and years and years. And then we come down to versatility. I've given it 8 out of 10. Again, it's held back a bit really by the fact that there's only one cap available, but that's pretty good at doing most things. Water-based paint, it tends to struggle a little bit with, but otherwise everything else it seems to be okay. So on to number 10. So in 10th place we have the ANI Scull, also known as an ANI Black or an ANI F200. Same gun, they're just different decals and different graphics, etc. on the guns. So I've given this 40 out of 50 for performance. Actually very good performance. Certainly keeps up with things like the GTI Prolite and in this test the Devilbiss Neptune as well. Very good gun. If you buy the kit, this can come in a kit. This is basically for clear coat, this top 12. But if you buy it in a kit, you get the clear cap, which is what we're using here. You also get the WB cap, you get a HVLP cap, and you also get the TMD1, which is the digital gauge, and that literally clicks on and off, so you can use the gauge, the gun with the gauge or without, up to you really. And that gauge also fits certain other ANI guns as well. Price wise, so for value for money, I've given it 19 out of 20. Basically because it is very good value for money. If you buy it as the clear version, which is what we're using here, then it is purely that cap that comes with it, so the clear cap, and you can also get it without the digital gauge, and it comes in at about 250 GB pounds. If you're getting it exported, it comes from Spray Guns Direct, which seem to have ANI quite sewn up as far as exports go. There are other places, but certainly I get my stuff from Spray Guns Direct. When they send it out without the UK VAT, so it may well be a little bit less where you are, or it may be slightly more, but still very good value for money. So definitely worth 19 out of 20. Reliability, I've given it 16 out of 20. My one's been perfectly fine, but what I will say is that reliability and build quality, of all the guns, when I came to do the strip down part at the start of these videos, you saw me putting it back together. What I'd noticed is on the rear of the gun, where you have the fluid adjuster, so where you loosen off to put the needle in, it actually gone rusty. So that suggests that it's not stainless steel, it's some kind of either nickel or chrome plating, and that chrome plating is obviously quite thin because it shouldn't really do that. So build quality, as I say, I've given it 16 out of 20 because it could be better, and also a lot of people have told me they have had problems with some of their ANI guns, so let down a little bit on build quality, I think. As far as versatility goes, I've given it 10 out of 10. If you use the clear cap, it does all sorts of clear coats really well, and if you're looking at the kit, then obviously it's extremely versatile because you get a host of caps with it anyway. But certainly the clear coat cap, I've tried it for base coat and it seems to work really well, but it is a clear coat cap, and it does sell at clear coat. It's really good. In fact, sometimes when you're using the gun and you realise the price of it, then you think to yourself, you know, it is possible to build a really good performing gun that looks good as well and feels good in the hand. It feels just like a Sata jet, so a good solid chunky feel. Not as heavy as something like a Sata jet, but yeah, it certainly feels good to use in the hand. It's very well balanced, which helps. So on to number 9. So in 9th place, it's the Wcom 360. This is a 360 Lite. They've now got the 360 Evo, which is, they've just changed at the base of the gun how the air gauge goes on. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. This is a HTE. They now call it Halo, but I'm informed by people that have got them that it's the same thing. They just keep changing them. They're a bit like a fashion brand, Wcom. They keep swapping things around. And I don't know whether that's because they feel like they're losing the battle and they have to keep bringing something else out to try and keep up with people. Anyway, you'll notice that the scores are the same for the top 3 guns. The overall scores are the same. I've put this ahead of the other 3 simply because I really do like this gun. It's an aluminium body wrapped in carbon fibre effectively, so it's a machined aluminium top with a carbon fibre body around it, and the handle is actually all carbon fibre. The result is you get a light gun. It's called a 360 because that's what it used to weigh, but they're actually less than that. I think this is about 335 grams, and the Evo is about 325 grams. So they've just shaved another 10 grams off. You probably won't notice that, but you do notice that it's actually a very light spray gun. So I've given it 45 out of 50. A very fast spray gun. You can get the MP cap for it, which does give you a really flat finish. You have to change the way you use the gun slightly. You have to hold it, you have to slow up a little bit, speed up a little bit, and hold the gun closer to the panel. And it does actually work. It can give you a really flat finish for clear coat, which is obviously what this video is about. So yeah, a very, very good spray gun with quite a few different caps available for it. The base coat gun and the clear coat gun, I remember somebody on the channel once said that they're the same. They're not. The tips are actually different. If you look at the tips, they are actually different. So they're not the same. So it is a dedicated clear coat gun. Yeah, I've given it 45 out of 50 because it performs really, really well. If this top 12 was done a couple of years ago, this would be right up near the front. But things have moved on. I've got different guns. Times have changed, etc. Value for money, I've given it 16 out of 20. They are expensive. I think they're overpriced, to be fair. I really wanted one because I just wanted one, really. But they are overpriced. They do come with a digital gauge, but it's a real pony little digital gauge that clicks on the bottom. Not particularly good, really, I don't think, anyway. So yeah, I've given it 16 out of 20 value for money wise. Reliability, build quality, I've given it 16 out of 20. People tell me, particularly people in the US, that it's really hard to get spare parts for these things. And it's no good having a gun, especially this sort of money, that you can't get spare parts for readily. The UK importer does tell me, or when I inquired a little while ago, that spare parts were readily available. So why they're not in the US, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's given 16 out of 20 for reliability and build quality. Versatility, 8 out of 10. It's quite a versatile gun, as versatile as any of the others we've seen. As a dedicated clear coat gun, it's actually very good and very, very fast. And if you like a fast clear coat gun, this is definitely one to look for. So on to number 9. So in 8th place we have the Sata X5500. This could just, for clear coat, this could just have easily have been the Sata 5000, but I wasn't going to put both of them in the top 12 because I don't think it deserves to both be in there. So I've gone for the X5500 simply because it's the newer gun, really, although I personally prefer the 5000, but I'm just looking at it objectively. So performance wise, I've given it 44 out of 50, and that's basically for the CC cap, because you can get a CC, which I presume stands for clear coat, You'll find a lot of individual reviews tagged in the bottom of this video. When you look at the description, lots of individual reviews, and you'll see my review of the Sata CC setup, which you can get. You just buy a tip set, so it comes with a cap, the tip and the needle, and you convert your standard gun to a CC version, and it does actually work supremely well for clear coat in the CC version. Not quite as well as some, but it does work really well. So it's basically that 44 out of 50 is on that. If you're looking at the standard RP caps that you get for it, it would probably be about 40. It would probably be the same as the GTI Prolite, Neptune, Scull, etc. So looking at it purely as with the CC, that's what gives it those marks. Value for money, I've given it 16 out of 20. It's supremely expensive. It's probably the most expensive. I think it is the most expensive gun here, especially if you get the digital version. They sell for about 700 and odd GB pounds, which is loads of money, about what, 900,000 US dollars, something like that. So a lot of money for what is a very well built gun, but nothing in my opinion exceptional really. But reliability and build quality, I've given it 18 out of 20. I've never had any problems with mine. I don't really expect to. I know people that use these day in, day out, and they tell me that they last really well. So that's what that score's made up of. It's 18 out of 20 is a good score for reliability. Build quality, very agricultural, well made, quite heavy. If you're wondering why the Sata Jet X isn't in this top 12, it's because it's not out yet. It comes out in about a month's time, and I will have to get one and to see what they're like, although I obviously don't need one, but I will get one to see what they're like. But if you're wondering why that's not in this top 12, I have no idea how good it is, but it's because it's not available at the moment. That's why I'm doing it this way. So as far as versatility goes, I've given it 8 out of 10. The RP cap is the cap that you would normally use for clear coat. The Sata tip sizes are all over the place. They say they're 1.2 and they're actually 1.25. Somebody told me they measure it by the amount of fluid that it flows. I can't personally see that. I just think that they effectively tell you the size that they think it is, but it actually isn't, if that makes sense. I have no idea why they do it, but I bought quite an expensive tool for measuring the diameter of the tips, and they're not what they say they are. The 1.3 cc is actually 1.15 millimeter, which means it's a supremely slow but very good gun, which you can often get by reducing the tip sizes in a lot of guns anyway. But yeah, I think worthy of its 8th place. Now on to number 7. In 7th place we have the NSI Water WBX. Now that can be a W400 WBX. It can be, in the case of the one in the video now, a Kiwami4 WBX. They also make a WV version, which is capable of getting in this top 12 without any problem at all. But I had to choose one or the other, and I chose the WBX for clear coat because it is just a little bit more fiery. It's not actually better than the WB, but it's a bit more fiery. It's a little bit faster. And can produce excellent finishes. This can actually give the NSI Water WI400, the WS400, a run for its money with the right clear coat. And I say with the right clear coat because what you'll find with most of these split tip guns, not just the Iwater ones, but any other split tip guns that may be in this video in total, you will find that they react better to a better quality clear coat because the atomization is definitely finer. You need something that flows out nicely and well, and normally better quality clear coats will do that. But for performance wise, I've given it 45 out of 50. It probably should have given it a few more, but 45 out of 50 is where I settled. Value for money, I gave it 18 out of 20. Very good value for money, whether you buy it in the W400 form or the Kiwami4 form. They are very good value for money, reasonably well made. Of all the spray guns I've had, Iwater is the one that I have the most problems with. and it's always air well, normally air leaking out the back, one at the front, but normally air leaking out the back where the needle goes through. And you need to replace the needle guide, which is the thing that looks like a nut shape on the back, which can be $30, $40, pounds, wherever you are. So they're quite expensive really, and it's quite annoying because these things don't get loads and loads of use, but it has been a frequent occurrence that they've gone wrong. So what I've done for reliability and build quality, I've given it 16 out of 20 because it's not actually quite there, I don't think anyway. And for the last one, which is versatility, I've given it 8 out of 10. It's capable of doing base coat, but it can put it on a little dry, so you need to put the pressure down a little bit. I use this at 2 bar for clear coat, which is what this video is about effectively, for a clear coat gun. I use it at 2 bar and it works perfectly well. Very, very good gun. When I did actually the score, I wondered why maybe this wasn't a little bit higher, but I think it's definitely the reliability thing holds it down a little bit. But yeah, certainly highly recommended. It's actually a 3 split tip rather than with some of the other guns a 4 split tip. And what that 3 split tip does is it actually speeds the gun up a little. So it does appeal to people that want a faster gun. It's still not as fast as, for example, the W400, a Balearia, or the Kiwami4 that's now been removed from sale, which is the BA4J cap. The one that looked like a sort of a bronzy colour cap. That one's been removed from sale, but this is definitely a good option if you're looking for a gun that's quicker than some of the split tip guns, produces a really flat finish, as I say, especially if you use a better quality clear coat, and isn't that expensive really as it goes. Anyway, on now to number 6. So in 6th place we have the NSI Water WI4L. Now, if you've been watching the video, you will know that the gun that was just before this was also a NSI Water, and they do share the same body. So the Kiwami4 version of the WBX and this gun share the same bodies. The difference is in the cap and the tip. This has a 4 split tip, whereas the WBX has a 3 split tip. The cap is also different. These are designed to run at 1.1 bar, which is about 16 psi, which is a bit low really. You can use them at that and you can get reasonable results, but most people will use them a bit higher. They are designed to replace in certain markets the LPH400, the NSI Water LPH400. So the cap that comes with the wider 4 is the equivalent to the LV4 cap, which is known as the silver cap for the LPH400, which is generally recognised to be the clear coat cap. I have actually got an LPH400, although not sold in the UK. I did manage to get one, but my one has the LVX cap, which is the orange cap. And I find the wider 4L with this cap or this setup is actually better than the LPH400 with the orange cap. I haven't got the LPH400 with the silver cap because I literally only got that one. Spares aren't available in the UK for the what is predominantly a US market gun, so I can't get access to it. But according to Iwater, the actual spec is exactly the same of the LVX 4 capped LPH400 and the wider 4L. So I've given it 45 out of 50 for performance. If you bump the pressure up, you can get really good results out of it, as good as virtually any gun in this competition. Value for money, I've given it 18 out of 20. Not particularly expensive. They are a bit more expensive actually than the Kiwami4 normally, but they're very close to each other. As I said, they're the same body, so it's purely marketing that actually changes the price. So for build quality, I've given it 16 out of 20. Once again, it has the same problems that I spoke to you about in the one before this, the WBX. It can leak air at the back. And why that isn't a huge problem in that it doesn't mean the gun doesn't perform particularly well, it does actually change the way it performs slightly. So you need to bump the pressure up. If you're getting air escaping out the back, you need to bump the pressure up, because it does actually effectively, because it's coming out the back, it removes some at the front, so it means you're getting lower pressure than you originally thought you had. For versatility, I've given it a good solid 9 out of 10. Very versatile gun, capable of spraying base coats, capable of spraying clear coats. This is a clear coat video, so we'll stick to that, but it is capable of doing lots of different clear coats. Like the other split tip guns, it does benefit from a good quality clear coat, in that because the atomization is quite fine, you need something that flows out nicely to take advantage of that. And of course, being a floor split tip, as we said earlier, it is a slower gun than the WBX. So on now to number 5. So in 5th place, we have the Sagola 4600. I don't think it's called the Extreme anymore, it's just called the 4600. This is the new version, came out in 2024. Very similar to the old version, slightly streamlined casing, slightly lighter. Everything is interchangeable bar the caps, but you can actually interchange the caps by changing the bezel on the outside of the cap. There'll be loads of links in the description of this video, and one of them will be about that if you want to see what the difference is. So one of the main differences between the newer version and the old version is all the caps are new, and I'm told I've only got one cap at the moment, which is the DVR Clear Pro cap. But people have told me that have bought the other caps as well, that they all seem to perform better than the original cap. So the base cap, the HVLP and the DVR Clear, not the DVR Clear Pro, the DVR Clear. And I've found that the DVR Clear Pro cap, which is the one you'll see us using in a second, is actually a bit better than the Titania Pro cap, which is really, if you're after the flattest finish, this is the cap to have. Quick apology for the footage. I've just realised that I actually do motorcycle stuff, but I've actually put quite a few clips of me doing a couple of wings we have for comparison videos, so apologies for that. The footage just does change in some of the later videos, but I've just realised there's quite a lot in there, but we are where we are now, so I'll carry on. So for performance, I've given it 45 out of 50. It's up there with the WBX, it's up there with the Wider 4, all the other ones that got 45 or getting 45 out of 50. It's right up there with those. And if I'd have done this video a couple of years ago, I would have been struggling of, you know, where to put the different guns. And this one would have been right up near the top. But times have moved on, different things have come out, and I've got different guns now. So I definitely, unfortunately, this has to be just relegated down a couple of positions, but 5th is a good position for it. One of my favourite guns for reliability or value for money. Sorry, I've given it 16 out of 20, and the reason I've given it 16 out of 20, one of the reasons it used to be my favourite gun was the fact that it wasn't particularly expensive. Then it got bought, Sagola, who are in Spain, got bought out by Alcometa, which is a UK company, and they put about 30% on the prices overnight, effectively. So it now becomes a much more expensive gun. So it's much harder to actually say it's brilliant value for money. So I've given it 16 out of 20, which reflects basically what I think of it now. I've given it for build quality and reliability, I've given it 20 out of 20. First one that's got full marks, because it is built exceptionally well. Really, they will last really, really well. There's very little seals. They call it metal to metal. Iwater do the same thing. A few other manufacturers do the same thing, where there's no sealing points at the front for the tip. But yeah, it should last you really well. And for the last score, I've given it 8 out of 10 for versatility. With the DVR Clear Pro cap, you can do base coat with it, but it's more suited for clear coat really, and it excels at that. So now on to number 4. So in 4th place, we have the Porphis PRD625 or 627. I could have put both of these in the top 12, but you know, in the interest of sanity, really, I thought, well, I would just do what I would put the 625 and the 627, lump them together, really. So this being a clear coat video, then the 625 is a supremely fast, good clear coat gun. The 627 is a slower version, but it does atomize a bit finer. Again, as I said before, there'll be loads of links in the description, so you'll be able to find individual tests of these if you so want. But they are capable of doing many, many different things. Now, if somebody had said to me a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, that I would have a Chinese manufactured spray gun in my top 12, I probably wouldn't have laughed, but I would have looked on in disbelief. But times have changed, things have changed. So going to the Porphis PRD 627, 625, performance wise, I've given them 46 out of 50. Very, very competent guns, whether you choose a 65 or the 67, and they are quite different. The 67 is much slower, it does atomize finer, so it will give you better results, and as with all the split tip guns, it will reward you for using a better quality clear coat. All the finishes you see in these videos, I do forget to mention, but all the finishes are literally as they come off the gun. Nothing's been sanded or polished in any way, and that's the only way to show you what the gun is capable of. So yeah, a good solid 46 out of 50, no shadow of a doubt. Value for money, got to be 20 out of 20. There's no other figure I could have given it, really. By Chinese standards, they are quite expensive, but by the standards of everything else in this video, they are not expensive. They are excellent value for money. So I wouldn't hesitate giving it 20 out of 20. For build quality, I've given it 18 out of 20. The build quality is very, very good, very solid. Mine have all been super reliable, had no problems with them whatsoever, as you would expect with a two-year-old guns. But they certainly seem like they're built to last, and I have no problem giving it 18 out of 20. I've had a couple of people have said that they've had a few guns with a small blemish on the casting. Well, to be fair, I looked when I was actually doing the strip down for these. There was one or two of the top name guns. I won't say what they are because they're actually in the 1, 2 or 3. But they've got a few blemishes as well. So none of them are perfect, really. But certainly I think for the money you're paying, they're actually really well built. And as I say, mine have been perfectly reliable. Versatility, I've given them 8 out of 10. I could probably give them 9 out of 10 to be fair. But yeah, certainly 8 out of 10 is being very conservative, because they will do most things really, really well. The 627 is often better for clear coat, I find, and the 625, a lot of people might like it for base coat because it wets up nicely, but supremely fast gun. So if you're using it for clear coat, and I do like using it for clear coat, it will show a clean pair of heels to the Sata 5000 1.3 RP, and people that have used the Sata 5000 1.3 RP will realise that that's no slouch. But this can really pump it on, so you need to move quickly, either that or bring the fluid back. You need to do something to compensate for the sheer amount that's coming out. But an absolute blast to use. I mainly do smaller stuff, I mainly do bike stuff, but I still enjoy getting the PRD 625 out and just blasting whatever I'm doing, because it does it supremely quickly, supremely well. And yeah, as I say, I would never have thought I would have put a Chinese gun in this position in a top 12 or 10 video, but it deserves to be there 100% without a shadow of a doubt. I do pay for all my guns, so it deserves to be there. So on to number 3. In third place we have the NSI Water WS400 clear gun. This is a series 2. Now for performance, I've given it 50 out of 50. As a clear coat gun, it is absolutely superb. Relatively easy to use. It's a split tip gun. As I said before, all split tip guns do reward you with using a better quality clear coat, because it just gives you, because the atomization is so fine, it gives you a really thin film of clear coat. So you need a clear coat that runs out nicely rather than one that needs more on there to actually get it to flow. So absolutely superb gun. If you're looking for quality of finish, this one and the gun at number 1 are the two that stand out in my mind as being absolutely superb, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the video with 50 out of a possible 100 for performance, because it means that if a gun's let down in other places, the performance will still bring it up, because a lot of people go on just performance. So as you probably guessed, there is a sting in the tail, and the sting in the tail, which brings this down a few places, is value for money. They are really expensive. They are available now in the Americas. They've been available in Europe for quite a while, about a year and a half. I've given it 17 out of 20 as value for money, because they are still very, very good, although they are extremely expensive. Another thing is reliability and build quality. I've given it 17 out of 20. That's a bit generous, to be fair. If you're going to buy one of these, don't get the digital version. Says the man who's using a digital version, I know. But they had, and I think still have, tremendous problems with the coatings. I've got a WS400 OBS, which is a base coat gun, Series 2. That's actually starting to discolour. The chrome hasn't lifted, but it's starting to discolour slightly. And I've really looked after these guns. I actually bring them in from cold weather as well, so that they're not getting, you know, too much of a chance of some kind of reaction on aluminium to lift the chrome. But I've had loads of trouble with the chrome lifting on the digital versions, which are made in Italy. The non-digital versions, which are made in Japan, don't seem to suffer the same problems. So forget your vanity and just get yourself a non-digital version, and I think you'll be reasonably happy. But I've given it 17 out of 20 just because it is actually a very, very good gun, and I think to mark it down too much would be a bit disingenuous, really. Versatility, I've given it 8 out of 10, which is probably a bit too much, really, because they are purely a clear coat gun. If you use them, try and use them for base coat, particularly for solvent base coat. It can put the base coat on quite dry, which is one of the problems they had with the original NSI Waters. Plenty of links in the description as to my feelings on this and how I actually got to sorting out the position of the cap, which needs to be at 90 degrees to the air horns. That's where the actual cutouts in the tip goes. But yeah, certainly if you're after performance, this gun and the gun at number 1 actually sticks. Well, the gun at number 2 is not bad. Sticks really in your head. Okay, so in second place is the Meiji Finer Core. Now, I first got hold of Meiji Tools about 3.5 years ago, something like that, and this was probably the second gun of theirs that I bought, and the build quality is absolutely superb. It is second to none. In this video, that you won't find a spray gun, in my opinion, that's better made. Now, they are made with finesse, so they're not something like a Sata or the Porphis guns or the Sagola are quite agricultural in that they're very solid and very well made. This is more like a Swiss watch. I keep giving that definition when I do reviews of the Meiji guns, but they're definitely a really finely engineered piece. They're actually physically quite small as well, but they still pack quite a punch. These are available in 1.3 and 1.5. They also do a HVLP version, but for clear coat, you're better off with the 1.3 or 1.5. There's no designation after that. It's just 1.3 or 1.5. There is actually something that's quite, well, relatively exciting for me. I realise it doesn't take much to get me excited, but quite exciting for me is that when I got these, I got these from Japan, and there was no mention of them in the UK, but there is actually a proper UK importer for them now. They're bought in by a company called BSS, Beyond Surface Solutions, and they bring a few different Meiji guns in, but they actually properly bring them into the country, so they keep a spares backup, and it's just an official importer into the UK, so you can get them in the UK through official channels now. But the build quality of these things are absolutely superb. So performance wise, I've given it 48 out of 50. If you had to split hairs, it's not quite as good as a WS400 or the one that's at number one, although the one that's at number one is supremely versatile in its, well, we'll get more into that when we actually get there. But the finer core is a superb gun. It's very easy to use. It won't bite you. It just delivers in space. It's like a modern, and I only say that, I only say this, it's like a modern GTI Prolite, and I only say that in its ease of use. The GTI Prolite Devilbiss, or Tekna GTI Prolite, is very easy to use, and the Meiji finer core is also very easy to use. You pick it up, and if you've got the setting slightly wrong, the gun will forgive you. It just delivers in spades. It's capable of medium solids, high solids, or ultra high solids, clear coats. Gives superb finishes. Without a shadow of a doubt, a highly recommended gun. So value for money, I've given it 18 out of 20. They're not cheap, but they're not overly expensive. In some of the company that's in this video, they are cheap by comparison, considering the performance and the quality you get. So I've given it a good solid 18 out of 20. Reliability, build quality, I've given it 20 out of 20. And I think, I'm just looking through my notes, I think it's the only gun that I've given 20 out of 20, because it should last you years without problems. You look after it and it will look after you. Adage with most tools, I suppose. But yeah, the build quality is absolutely superb, and I'm sorry if I keep mentioning that, but it really, really is. Versatility, I've given it 9 out of 10, because if you buy the non-HVLP version, it's actually good for base coat as well. You can use it for base coat and you can use it for clear coat. I've tried the HVLP version for clear coat as well, and it actually works fine. It's a bit slower, it does use more air. You just need to modify your position, which is normally closer to the panel for HVLP, which is a normal thing anyway. So yeah, I have absolutely no hesitation recommending this as an excellent spray gun. Deserves its position at number 2. It only got its position over at number 2 over the WS simply because of the build quality and the value for money. Okay, so on to number 1. So the gun that finally brings us to the end of this marathon, and the one that's in top spot, number 1, is another Porphis. It's the Porphis PRD627. Now, a lot of what I say for this can also go for the 715. It's a similar situation to the 627 and the 625 PRD Porphis guns. Both excellent at what they do. So for performance, I've given it 50 out of 50. It really is an excellent performing gun. It's right up there with the WS400, but it's actually different to the WS400 in that this thing will work at 2 bar if you want it to, but it will also work and give you super flat finishes at 1.3 bar. It will work at 1.5 bar, 1.6, 1.7. So anywhere from 16 to 29 PSI, this thing will work supremely well. If you want to speed it up a bit, try it at 25, 26 PSI. I don't actually need the speed from this because I'm rewarded by pure quality. If I want super fast speed, I'd go for the 715 because that is really, really quick. But I have no hesitation in putting this in number 1. I did think that when I did the calculations, when you dig these out and you actually think, right, well, what guns do I want in my top 12? I ended up with 15 guns. The 3 that didn't quite make it, the ones you saw at the start, and then it was just a matter of putting the other 12 in order. and this one was gonna come out at number one. Don't matter what way I did it, it was gonna come out at number one, because it's equal, in my opinion, to the WS400 in performance. It's much more versatile than the WS400. It will spray base coat and clear coat. I have had somebody say to me that they got the 715 for base coat and the 717 for clear coat, and they actually ended up preferring it the other way round. So it's not for everybody. I think they like the speed, because the 715 will give you speed, but it also gives you a really good finish. And this is a classic case, as I said before, I think with the other Porphis gun, and when I was reviewing the Sagola gun, if it wasn't for the fact that I'd sampled these guns and a few of the others, this top 12 would have looked really different 2.5 years ago, which is when I was originally going to do it, and that's where some of the footage comes from. So apologies if the footage, some of it is a little bit old, but it is purely something that I'd saved up for ages to actually get a top 12 video out, and I had to change my thinking completely when I got hold of the Porphis guns. So I've given it 50 out of 50 performance, no qualms about giving it that. Value for money, 20 out of 20, no qualms for giving it that. They're not expensive. As I said before, by Chinese standards they are expensive, but in the overall scheme of things, considering what you get, they're not expensive at all. I've given it 18 out of 20 for reliability. I've had no problems with mine whatsoever. The build quality is actually very, very good. It's not perfect. A couple of people, as I said before, with a 627 and 625 have pointed out a few sort of casting flaws, and said the finish isn't quite what they had expected from me saying how good it was. But I think really you're splitting hairs with that, because you've got to bear in mind how much these things cost, and I would still give it a good solid 18 out of 20 for build quality, because they're built to last. Even the baffle is aluminium. It's a good durable aluminium baffle. The sealing ring on the end is the same material as Sata uses. It's a nylon material. I thought I would need a couple of spare ones, and you can get spare parts from these if you need to. I thought I'd need a couple of spare ones, so I got a couple of spare ones. I've never had to use them. They don't deform in any way. They just seal and get on with the job. Absolutely superb spray gun. No hesitation whatsoever in giving it top marks. Versatility, I've given it 10 out of 10. Extremely versatile. It'll spray base coat, spray clear coat. Whatever pressure you fancy throwing at it, it will do it. A very, very worthy winner in my opinion. Capable of superb finishes straight out of the gun with whatever material you care to put in it. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching as always. Bye bye.